a lot of music in it, where he sings and sings and sings. It's great, really enjoyable. If you like George Strait, and I'll have a week of talk radio.
Uh-huh.
Do you get music out ever?
Do I get
music out? Henry Mancini told me he never listens to music on radio anymore. He's gotten away, he just listens to all talk radio because he just gets around it too much, you know?
Yeah, I don't listen to nearly as much. I don't invest in what I used to invest in music.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
It's so humid outside. I'm bringing it in here. God.
I know. I thought we'd come down here and get some sun.
Mm-hmm.
Fool that I was.
Ready?
I'm rolling.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm rolling too.
Okay. Let's go back to the source a little bit. What kind of music did you play when you were a teenager?
Primarily rock and roll. I came from a family that loved musical theater, but that was sort of what I was rebelling against. So I played in bands, the Beatles, the Stones, Dylan.
And what were you, the keyboardist?
Generally the keyboardist.
Organ player or
also
piano?
guitar. I used to pick up electric guitar. I picked up any number of instruments.
When you're writing, what instrument do you hear in your head?
Now keyboard. I'm very much a piano player.
It's interesting, if you were a rock and roller, I mean, the stuff that you've had the most success with recently certainly hasn't been rock and roll. I mean, it's almost like in the root of maybe the 40s and 50s theater. I mean, good quality stuff, you know, that's big band in a way, influenced.
Yeah, I like to be a musical chameleon, you know, and I like to basically adapt the story that we're telling. And if whatever's appropriate, then I like to go with that. If there's any elements I've gotten from rock and roll that apply to the music I do is when I set down a meter, I like it to be catchy and I like it to grab you and not let go. I like to really stay simple to support a lyric, so that lyric really gets across to you, and so the music is not show-offy, but that it's very simple and memorable. And I like to think that in Howard's lyrics and in Tim's lyrics, there's the voice of someone who loves rock and roll, and it comes off in little ways that make fun of, fun of things.
How influenced are you by your co-writer?
By the collaborator?
Your collaborator.
I'm very influenced by, I think, as much as anything else, the work method. Some people, like to work music first, and I can work any number of ways, and it affects the result, whether you do music first, or lyric first, or a title first, and then the music. I'm also certainly influenced by how demanding my co-writer is. The more demanding, the better. Because in a musical theater song, it's easy to get away with something that's an indication or just a kind of a sleight of hand. To really delve into character, to write something that's genuinely funny, or that's genuinely moving, is very much a matter of being patient and finding the right place to put the song, and recognizing how you need to underscore into the song. And it's all the various elements are, very much affect the result. Certainly, the collaborator with whom I've had the closest collaboration was Howard, and I was very influenced by him.
Who were some of your heroes that did movie music that you used to like when you were coming up, you thought were really good?
Well, a lot of them are still working. I think John Williams is an absolutely terrific scorer. Jerry Goldsmith. Maurice Jarre. Dmitri Tiomkin. Of course, the great Korngold scores. But I grew to actually appreciate a lot of those as I grew older, because I didn't grow up as a fan of the scores of movies as much as I was a fan of musicals. It was after I began working in movies that I began to study musical scores to films.
I don't know how. I guess it was because my brothers had albums like Hatari that Henry Mancini did, and I was listening to a lot of instrumental movie music because it was dramatic or soft and didn't have words, and I just found it to be very interesting, even as a child.
Yeah.
Is there an Alan Menken sound, would you say? When you hear a Mancini thing, I hear strings, there's thick strings and a lot of kind of muffled horns or bright horns. John Williams you can hear the marches that he's had to do and those kind of things. There's a lot of influence. What's the Alan Menken sound, is there?
Well, I think if there's anything that characterizes my sound, it's a couple of things. One is that I write on piano, and then it's translated to orchestra. So there's certain kinds of figures of sustaining vamps that I do on the piano that are translated in different ways to orchestra that are somewhat of a signature. Mostly, though, it's supporting song material, and supporting song material in a very direct way. As you know, at this point, I write fairly broad themes, and I like to use them as much as possible to underscore material that relates to a song and that carries through the theme of the song in the film. Beyond that, this is really my third full film score, and so I think it's very much a developing style.
You know, through the years, it's historic. Everyone from popular music artists like the Beatles to classical music artists, Mozart, people like that. Musicians have always been taken advantage of in business. They're creators. They don't think, with their pocketbook necessarily. Here we are in the 90s. I mean, you're very, very successful. How do you combine the businessman aspect with the artistic side?
I'm really fortunate in the people who I have around me. I have a manager who I've had I've been associated with him for 15 years. And he's great, and he's smart, and he's honest. And I have business managers who are very conservative and who I trust. I just have basically various checks and balances in my life, people who have taken good care of me. So I don't think about the business aspects. I really let other people do that and tell me, sign here. We'll discuss elements, and a lot of times I'll take a role in a negotiation with Disney or with David Geffen or any of the people who I deal with, and I'll have an opinion, and often mine will be, please, can't we get along with them? I hate when things explode into unpleasantness. But Scott does a very good job.
But basically, you're an artist, but you have to have some business smarts now too, don't you?
Well, political smarts. Mm-hmm. I think for me, more than business smarts, I need to know how to present myself, how to speak with people who are involved on the corporate level, and how to include people in our sessions. They're very much an open session. I bring a lot of people in from Disney, and I solicit a lot of opinions. Sometimes not so much because I want the opinion, mm-hmm. but because I want to include as many people as possible in the process. And I've learned, I think, how to deal with people and how to manage people, and how to manage, also my music departments. That's a whole other, area where I have a whole slew of orchestrators and arrangers and musicians and copyists who work with me, and I have to be the one to show my appreciation and to include them in the process in ways that are appropriate, and sometimes to just make an arbitrary decision and take responsibility for it.
And now with your success, you have to also learn how to say no and turn down work, don't you?
That's hard. That's the hardest.
Because your whole life you want to get work, and now here you are, you're having to turn down stuff, and something doesn't feel right about that.
People I've dreamed of working with are making offers, and I'm not able to say no. And if I don't say no, sooner or later they get in there and go, "You didn't say no," and I feel guilty. And next thing I know, I'm doing 5 projects at once.
And then your work suffers, and it's
Yeah. Well, the work hasn't suffered yet. What's suffered, frankly, is my family, and that's really a crime. My kids get very frustrated that I'm just away all the time, and when I'm saying I'm finally home, I'm in the city, in New York all the time, in session, and I'm on the phone, I'm in the office, and that's the kind of thing that I'm really trying to now deal with, and I'm slowly learning.
It's a nice problem to have, Alan.
Thanks.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I know that's the bad thing about being more successful I get. I got 2 girls, and I just.
How old are your girls?
12 and 6.
Yeah.
And I have to really pedal fast.